Howdy folks, so after 4 months, we have finally arrived at the beginning. That's right, we have arrived at Sleep Token's first album, Sundowning, released in 2019. And it's been quite a journey to get here through EP1 and EP2, but I know a lot of people have enjoyed the video so far, particularly the deep dives into historical context or religious context. So today, we're going to do a bit more of that. That's right. It's time for Science Lessons with Glen.
Science Lessons with Glen.
Circadian rhythm is your body's 24-hour internal clock. It governs on the whole 3 main things. The main one being when you feel tired and when you feel awake, when you are hungry or wish to consume something, and essentially when you want to fuck. Your circadian rhythm has a control over your breathing habits as well. And in fact, it isn't just us that has a circadian rhythm. In fact, every biological thing on Earth has some sort of circadian rhythm. But how does it work? Well, it is your reaction to light. So at the bottom of your brain is something called the hypothalamus. Inside your hypothalamus is the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. So as you open your eyes in the morning, light hits your eyes and it tells the SCN to do things to your body. For example, it starts to inhibit the release of the hormone melatonin, which is what makes you sleepy. It also raises your blood pressure and body temperature, essentially getting the body ready for the day. And that's why we're at our cognitive best, normally around late morning. But indeed, there are 2 times in the day where we tend to get sleepy as well, between 2 and 3 p.m. in the afternoon, which a great many of you will know, because that's the afternoon lull, and between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the darkness of morning. It also releases a hormone called cortisol, essentially making you more aware of what is happening in daylight. And towards the end of the day, as the sun recedes once again, it tells the body to reduce the amount of cortisol being released and release melatonin, making us sleepy, getting us ready for sleep. But in short, really, your circadian rhythm is your internal link to the rotation of the Earth. Now, we live in a 24-hour cycle, if you like. The cycle does not end, it repeats over and over again, but we rather live by 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. And 12 is very important. We're going to come back to that again in the future. Circadian rhythm is also attached to astronomy and astrology as well. It's attached to astronomy because it is the way our biological makeup, everything on Earth, attaches to the movement of the Earth. It is a rhythm that has evolved directly from the turning of the planet. Astronomy explains the circadian rhythm biologically, while astrology uses kind of cosmic rhythms metaphorically. Think of it like this. Your circadian rhythm is biological time. Astronomy is the cosmic mechanics of that time. And astrology is the symbolic interpretation of those cosmic cycles. So while obviously that is already very Sleep Token coded in terms of what we've been presented with thus far, but how does that connect to sundowning? So, sundowning or sundown syndrome affects people with Alzheimer's or indeed other forms of dementia. It comes about at the time of the day as the sun starts to disappear, late afternoon and early evening. And some of these symptoms of it are truly quite frightening. As the day goes on, people who suffer from sundowning syndrome can have moments of confusion, irritability, all the way to paranoia, to sleep disturbances, to hallucinations in a lot of cases. And indeed, a lot of healthcare professionals who work with these people, and indeed family members who've taken in other family members who maybe suffer from Alzheimer's and dementia and have developed sundown syndrome, they can see a complete change in that person from how they were in the daytime to how they are in the night. It can even, in extreme cases, lead to acts of violence. Although the exact causes of each individual case can vary, a lot of times it is based on a disruption of the circadian rhythm. And in a lot of cases, people who are working with patients who suffer from this are advised to close the blinds. There are plenty of ways that you can make it more peaceful in the evening. Soft music in the background, trying to kind of balance the unnatural light against the natural light. The same way that we are warned against from using our phones before we go to bed because we are making light go into our eyes, and that's messing up our hormones. It's messing up our circadian rhythm. But in many instances, people are told to draw the blinds or shut the curtains. curtains as one of the most triggering things that people can find who are suffering from sundown syndrome is long shadows. So while we will dive into in the future why the word sundown and why that syndrome is so important to this 12-song album, before we get there, I'd like to talk about the album art. So the cover art of Sundowning, and indeed Sundowning Deluxe in its inverse form, is part of a larger project called Dystopia, produced by Kevin St. Grey, who is a fine art photographer. Now, a lot of Kevin's work is photographing buildings alongside nature in the background. But Dystopia was a project about photographic reductionism. He utilized camera movements during exposures, therefore turning the original source material into a collection of lines. In fact, it's even made me and others think that perhaps this is the way that the man behind the mask, that Vessel, views himself, that he can't see exactly what he's meant to. The structure is gone. It has been reduced in the daylight to a collection of lines, almost like he's seeing his own shadow, but he can't make it out properly. And indeed, in the deluxe version, we get the inverse of that. We get the white on black. But there is far more to discuss with artwork than just the album cover when it comes to the album Sundowning. Each of the songs were released periodically, and each of them came with a sigil, a design that we're going to show in the visualizer when we get to The Night Does Not Belong to God, and of course, all of the other songs on this album. But all of the sigils attached to the songs are not photographic reductionism. They are linked to a number of things, but one of the most important is alchemy. Alchemy, like Sleep Token, is shrouded in mystery. In fact, you will have seen alchemical symbols, no doubt, all over the place. Some of you may even have certain things like, for example, the Philosopher's Stone tattooed on you, but we'll come to the Philosopher's Stone in a moment. See, alchemy began in ancient Greece and Egypt, then it spread throughout the Islamic world, eventually coming to Western Europe in the Middle Ages. And it did lay the groundwork for modern chemistry, although it was much more symbolic and mystical. Alchemy wanted to take base materials like lead, and it believed that somehow they were going to turn it into gold. That was where the Philosopher's Stone rather came into this. But it wasn't just the physical, it was the spiritual transformation as well. Alchemy believes that matter and spirit is connected. By transforming one, it can transform the other. And the magnum opus, the great work, wasn't just about finding the Philosopher's Stone. It wasn't just about turning lead into gold. It was about reaching spiritual enlightenment, if you like, spiritual perfection. The Philosopher's Stone, the red stone that they were all trying to create, was a legendary substance. It was meant to transform base materials into gold, but not just that, it was meant to be the elixir of life. Alchemists were, in a way, trying to play God. But as many of you will know who've already watched a lot of my Sleep Token videos, I believe that Sleep Token is rooted in analytical psychology. I believe that it's rooted in the search for bringing together the shadow work, the work of Carl Gustav Jung. And as if all of this weren't exonerably linked already, Carl Jung spent the last 30 years of his life studying the combination, studying the links between alchemy and psychology. See, Jung wanted to connect alchemy with psychological development and spiritual transformation, and of course, the concept of individuation. Individuation being the process of becoming one's true self. Jung didn't believe that alchemists were just trying to take lead and turn it into gold. He believed that they were doing something symbolic. They were describing the transmutation of the human psyche. Jung viewed the magnum opus, the great work, the 4 stages of the alchemical process to take something base and turn it into something priceless. He rather viewed that as the stages of psychological growth. And I'm going to bring those up for you now. The first step, nigredo, a blackening and putrefaction. In alchemy, it's a stage of, if you like, decay or death. It's breaking down the old material. Psychologically, it represents, if you like, the dark night of the soul, embracing one's shadow and the repressed parts of your personality. It's often a time of confusion, despair, or chaos, indeed. But it has to happen for transformation to happen. There has to be that upset, that darkness. There has to be that diving into the cold, dark waters. That has to happen before you can transform, before you can become your essential self. As in alchemy, so in psychology. The second part of the process is albedo, a whitening or a purification. In alchemy, it is the washing away and the cleansing of impurities in the base material. Psychologically, it's the awakening of consciousness and maybe a recognition of your inner truth, your truth. Once one begins to integrate the shadow, you gain clarity, you gain self-knowledge. If you like, albedo is a stage of renewing or emotional healing. Which brings us to stage 3, citronitis or citronitis, often symbolized by the color yellow. It is the awakening. I saw a lovely quote that compared it in alchemy to the dawning of a golden light. The signs of perfection starting to appear. Psychologically, it is the first stage of insight, of internal illumination, where the shadow and the self start to merge together. Yellow is the perfect color for this because, if you like, it is the sunrise of the inner self. And finally, rubedo, the reddening, the completion, the red that represents, of course, the red of the Philosopher's Stone. In alchemy, it was the final stage, the coming together of opposites to create the Philosopher's Stone, the end of the magnum opus, the great journey to find something that was the elixir of life, that something that could turn base metals into gold, something that can take the dark and turn it into light. And from Jung's perspective, it was about the union of the self. It was the complete integration of the conscious and the unconscious, of the spirit and the matter, of the masculine and the feminine, the beginning of the true self. This is individuation. When a person becomes whole, they become complete, they become spiritually complete. So for Carl Jung, alchemy was like a symbolic map of inner transformation, if you like. It was the journey from darkness and fragmentation and having what you thought was yourself broken down, or you yourself breaking down the stuff that had been shoved down into the unconscious. It was that journey, taking it from that darkness, from that fragmentation towards light, towards unity, and if you like, towards being psychologically whole. And I believe that is the journey that we're on with Sleep Token. And it rather starts here in Sundowning. It rather starts with the night does not belong to God. And I want to talk about the title of the song as well, because I would love to give you a definitive answer. There are lots of times where I feel like, yeah, and oh, by the way, just in case anybody's ever watched one of my videos before, or never watched one of my videos before, I could be talking complete shit. You have to remember, I could be talking bollocks. All of these Sleep Token songs are open to interpretation, and that's rather what makes them so good, what makes this such a fascinating band. I take quite an analytical look on the lore of this. I view it as a piece of musical theatre. The man behind the mask, the man in his mask, piano, mask, in his underpants, just at home, like he goes to Sainsbury's, Walmart for the Americans. He still has to queue to pay for parking when he goes out and about and needs to get his Sunday shopping. Like, this is a real person. This is a piece of theatre that they have created, or rather, they, Vessel 1 and 2, have created. But in this piece of musical theatre, there is so much. There is so much depth. And indeed, just the few conversations that we've had already. Okay, it was a longer intro than I expected. But I believe that context is important. And I believe that if you're new to this band, or indeed that you're diving in about the same time that I am to listen to Sundowning, that this is important. Context is important, but I can't give you the right answer, because there is no right answer. This is art. This is open for interpretation. I want what I say, or maybe some of my interpretations, to sit beside yours. I want them to be complementary. I want them to be thinking points. I want you to be in the comments and say, hey, I think this and I think this, because that's fucking healthy. And one of my favorite things about Sleep Token is it's a band that makes people smarter. I've become smarter. I know I'm a bit Homer Simpson.
Every time I learn something new, it pushes some old stuff out of my brain. Remember when I took that home winemaking course and I forgot how to drive?
That's because you were drunk.
And how?
On the whole, I've learned a fuckload about stuff that I would have never dreamed to dive into. The depths of astronomy and astrology and psychological construction and alchemy. All of this is brand new to me. I only started listening to this band earlier on this year, but the change it's made in me, the idea that I've gone, oh shit, all of that shadow work that I did is now represented by a band who are making incredible music. As I've said before, we are living Sleep Token in real time. This is a wonderful time to be alive and to be witnessing what incredible music and what incredible art that these bands are creating. So, the night does not belong to God. But why doesn't it belong to God? Because we were led to believe up till this point through EP1 and EP2 that sleep in the night is where the vessel, the man who worships a deity called sleep in this musical theatre production called Sleep Token, that they come together, that in the night, that she potentially, although sleep is referred to he in the earlier interviews, that she, because we're going to use the representation from the lyrical content of this album, that's where they come together. It's in the day that he becomes confused. It's in the day that Vessel seems to I don't know, not be able to make sense of everything. And in that respect, I understand why the refrain, which is repeated like a prayer, the night comes down like heaven. Obviously, we will do a dive into the lyrics after we've listened to the song. The night comes down like heaven, potentially on the vessel. The night is the place where the connection is. But the night does not belong to God. Now, there is a lot of subject matter in the lyrics of Sleep Token that makes us believe, obviously, and indeed, if you are into religious structure or angel mythology, that there isn't just one God. That it's even inferred that sleep is a god that has lost their power slightly, and that there are other gods that potentially both Sleep and Vessel will have to deal with at some point. So maybe the night does not belong to a greater god. Maybe it doesn't belong to gods at all. Does it belong to the human realm? Does it belong to Vessel? The night does not belong to God. Everybody's got a different interpretation of this title, and I'm really interested. And again, if you want to pop it in the comments below and have a chat about that before we've even listened to any music. But eventually, we are going to have to listen to some music, folks. It's time. We're going to have to open up. We're going to have a quick look at the Sigils first, but then we're going to have a dive into. But I think it's time to bring up the video, the first single, the first track from 2019, Sleep Token's Sundowning, their debut album. I'm so excited to be able to say this for the first time. We have arrived at the very beginning. This is The Night Does Not Belong to God by Sleep Token. Oof. I've listened to this song 100 times. I'm suddenly now. This here is the Sigil. I would ask, if you've never watched this before, even if you have, please pay close attention to the visualizer and what it's telling us alongside the music. We'll do a music deep dive, we'll do lyric analysis. I'm not going to talk over the whole thing, trust me. I want to enjoy this. fucking drum intro. Some fucking band this. Some really low notes going on there I've not heard before. We need to talk about those artifacts left in the background as well. Oh, that China. It might just be the bell of a ride. There's absolutely a voice panned off to the left at the end there. Listen, I'll fight someone who says otherwise. There's a voice there. Fuck off, Liam. Okay, so before we dive into the song too much, I would like to add a little bit of colour to this, literally, because we did this on a stream recently. Again, if you want to follow us on Twitch, we're doing it right now. We're talking about all of the sigils from Sundowning. We're doing a deep dive every time I'm on Twitch, or you can join in for Wheel of Your Tunes, or whatever, or don't. Free range human. Do what you want. So before we dive into the music and lyrical analysis, I think that we need to take a little look at what is just down here, the sigil that is attached. Now, each one of the songs in Sundowning has a different sigil. So, like I said, at the moment over on Twitch, we're taking a deep dive into it with an article that was written not by me, but is in the description. Is in the description below. An article that goes through a lot of the alchemical symbols, and indeed from runes and other little takes away that I mean, I've only been following Sleep Token for a few months now. There are people out there who've been following them for years who are far more educated and have had more time to work on this than I have. But this sigil here features something really quite prominent, and that's the triangle. For those of you who haven't got your alchemical cheat sheets out right now, I'm going to bring this article up again. It's going to be linked in the description below. I want as many people to have a look at this as possible, to be able to learn as much as they can from Sleep Token as I have. So let's take a look at what they have to say about the night does not belong to God. So originally posted by user A Ghost of Something, here are their interpretations of the sigils based on mainly mainly alchemy, but also there are some other, again, you can please do dive into the document. It's going to be linked in the description below. I would love for everybody to offer their own interpretations of what they is, but what it is rather. But the fire is the most predominant one. Again, if you've got your alchemical symbols cheat sheet out, you will recognize that triangle immediately as fire. Aside from the obvious, fire in alchemy represented emotions such as passion, anger, love, and hate, but also the mind as a whole. It also represents the start of alchemical processes. Without fire, we can't break down the base material. There are a lot of different correspondences with fire, so in all reality, I don't think you're limited to the alchemical uses with how it could connect in lyrical context. Now, part 2 here, I'm not sure if you can see I don't think you can see the cursor. So number 2 there, which is the angular stuff coming off to the right-hand side, are the embers left behind after a fire has died out. Now, I've thought about this a lot because we often refer to when people are having heightened psychological moments or moments where they lose control. Again, this can be related to dementia and Alzheimer's. It's the fire in the uncontrollable fire, the lack of reasoning that can go on, and indeed that is a part of sundowning. In itself. Now, they're not particularly confident with this one at the bottom here. I'm not particularly confident in months. Let me just move this down a little bit. But one thing I do think is incredibly important. So number 4 here, iron pyrite, also known as fool's gold. Can we just take a second to think about the implications here? Because if I am correct on this symbol, then the very first sigil we have presents you with fool's gold while utilizing symbols of the process most widely known for attempting to create pure gold. Now that's very interesting. So in the act of trying to create something beautiful, in the first attempt, if you like, of coming together with one shadow, of embracing something, of the moment, the initial process. By the way, alchemical processes aren't limited to the 4 versions that I mentioned earlier. There are other interpretations from different philosophers and alchemists who say it's a 12-step process, who say it's a 14-step process. Gosh, I would love to balance this all out with the 12-step process as well, because that would make a lot of sense with obviously the circadian rhythm, the idea that we have embraced a geometrical, mathematical way of processing the night and day, the turning of our world, what is intrinsically linked to our circadian rhythm. But in doing that, in the first creation of possibly finding our way to, indeed from a psychological perspective of embracing the shadow, we have tried to get something out of it, and we've been given fool's gold instead. Part 5 here, we can see, again, I do urge you to read the document yourself, to fixate or coagulate. This seems like a candidate for one of the aforementioned rotated and flipped symbols. If it is, then it could be the symbol for fixate. Now, Vessel seems to be, from EP1 and EP2, fixated on sleep. It is a fascination. And indeed, there has been a little bit of that towards the end of EP2 after Nazareth, of perhaps sleep is fascinated by Vessel 2, but not necessarily, not Vessel 2, just Vessel, comma, TOO. Maybe Vessel 2 as well. So the symbol used for fixate, a process in which a volatile substance is transformed into another form. It's unaffected by fire. And coagulate is the thickening of a thin liquid. We'll know that about how our blood coagulates. Our blood thickens to create scabs, our body's natural healing process. Something, again, which is affected by circadian rhythm. The thickening of a thin liquid into a more solid mixture through some inner change, such as the curdling of milk. Coagulation is also seen in the spiritual form of alchemy as the solidification of the true self, or the healing of an emotional/mental wound. The symbol also serves as wax in some instances, and a year in another, which would obviously lead in again to cycles. For me, this is the right symbol. I think it's being used as either fixate or coagulate. And then finally, lime. So let's just pop right back up for a moment to number 6 there. That is the semicircle in the bottom right-hand corner that also has an affected line going through it. And if anybody is interested in Euclid in any way, you will understand about how lines going going through things affect parallels, etc. But that's a conversation for another time. Apparently, that's a conversation for 46 songs' time. So it's potentially lime. Again, not fully confident due to the sheer number of variations on this particular style and numbers of forms used to represent lime in general. It'll be important again later, regardless if it's in the sigil. So let's get the explanation of lime in this context out of the way. We are using lime as a building material. So bird lime, for example, is prepared from the bark of the holly. It was spread on twigs and used for catching small birds. The lime used in building, etc., is made by putting limestone or shells in a red heat, which burns off the carbonic acid and leaves a brittle white solid. We're right into alchemy here, folks, which dissolves easily in water. So in short, it is a binding agent. A little bit of extras here at the bottom as well. Let's just cover those. What is the symbol off to the left? Not a clue. I had a theory that it was heavily stylized and an adjusted version of one of the many, many symbols for sun. For now, though, I have nothing to point out as an idea past that. There are 5 lines in this symbol that stand out from the rest, and I do wonder if that is connected to the 5 prongs on Vessel's mask. Rush to go and check now. We all did on stream, since the other vessels all have 7 prongs. So, of course, I urge you to critically analyse all of that. Indeed, make up your own conclusions if you want to discuss them in the comments below. But I thought I would arm you with as much information as possible. Indeed, the whole document will be available in the descriptions below. But I'd like to take a dive now into the music. I think we'll move into lyrics in a moment. So I'll be stopping and starting here. I'm sure you expect that. But, I always like to prefix it in case people are like, why are you stopping the song? Well, to talk about it. Otherwise, I don't think there's any point in me being here. So, The Night Does Not Belong to God is a song of dynamics, a song of going up runs in scales and down runs in scales. It does take us up and down, and I don't know if that has a deeper root. We're going to get this reverse fade into the piano note. Feels like it is the beginning. This is one of the most fantastic songs to open a set. So you got that fade down the octave and then that fade up the octave, but both into that bass piano note, and it's so dreamy. It's washed in reverb. Careful note to the melody. So we haven't really moved away from that G sharp being the dominant note in all of this. I presume it's in a G sharp, but it's washed. It's dreamy, and the fade on the initial, if you like, the build of the initial synth line. It does feel like, in a way, we are waking up, like when your eyes open, like we were talking before, the circadian rhythm, the light hits your eyes. It causes your body into to becoming, into functioning, as we do as Homo sapiens, as human beings, and waking up our body, the release of cortisol, pushing down of melatonin being released in the body. So this song does have the dynamics of us almost waking up, that blinking that we get in the morning, kind of accentuated by that pulse. Indeed, perhaps it's the heart rate, because as we wake up and our circadian rhythm tells us to, our internal temperature raises and our heartbeat raises as well, and we start to become more aware, and we do feel that we're slightly bleeding through with these big, like G sharp notes. I think it's a G sharp underneath there, really like driving us underneath. But we are quite bright in this synth line.
And you remember
washed in harmony. Big breaths on the high line. There we get that. That rumbling underneath. That isn't a musical instrument. That feels like lorries going over a fucking, like a bridge over the top of us, or that rumbling that you would hear in the morning. There is a rumble that comes in to the night comes down like heaven. It's slightly disjointed as well. Such a good pickup. One of my favourite modern drum pickups. Now listen to how the scales go up, or rather the guitars go up and come back down again. So we're not going to get into the lyrics yet, but just listening to the sonic dynamics, they're taking us there. The guitars are rather going up and then holding, dropping out, and then coming back down again. We're getting this. It's not uneasy. It's not easy listening either, but it sits quite nicely, and also it is met with the refrain of the night comes down like heaven, offered in harmony, almost offered like a repetition, like prayer. We've mentioned this already in EP1 and EP2, that this is ritual, that the repetition sometimes of lines is very important. And isn't it interesting that in the first song, out the gate of Sundowning, one of the first things we're getting is repetition. We're getting repetition of the same line and the same refrains, the same musical lines over and over again, rather perpetuating the idea that we are entering a cyclical world, a world that will both fade in and will fade out, like as we do in the daytime, as our I nearly did it again. I did call it Arcadian rhythm on stream, and now that's stuck. Your circadian rhythm offers you those swells, the rhythm of life, but when you suffer from sundown syndrome, those don't fire properly. Again, there's a bunch more to unpack with rather deep lyrics associated to Sundown Syndrome in this song. Anyway, but we shall go back to it for now.
Sounds like in the low light, inside divine.
Why? Why are those artifacts on there? Why are those glitches on the track? Why is that so prominent? It hasn't been hidden by this album was produced by George Lever, but there's a deliberate reason. Why is there noise on the line? Why when we're on our phone call are we hearing other voices in there? Because that's exactly what this is the musical equivalent of. What are those cracks? What are those bubbles? What are those little alien noises? Alien noises, for one of a better term. It sounds like something has crackled and been put in reverse. It repeats twice. There's two little noises. Can you tell I'm not obsessed? But there's two little noises and then like a reverse version of it as well. I can't let this go for nothing.
We tangle endlessly, like lovers entwined.
Still there.
I know for the last time, you will not be mine.
Getting that swell. The voices came in at different times. He left them all there. What an opening to an album. And This tasteful dynamic change now from 2. The bell of the ride, the bell of the china, just drives us through. Also, harmonically, we are in the round here. We've got the whites of your eyes go back in, go back in the. Goodness me, we've got the whites of your eyes refrain, but also the melody refrain as well that are clashing together. We're almost like building up to peaceful chaos. It's disjointed, but it's all in its right place. It's all in 4. It is like controlled. Beautiful, controlled chaos. There's a sense of reverence to it. There's, it feels quite sonically planted by the time we get to the end of it. Like if you like over the process of the song, we've woken up, we've gone into worship, we've realized that the night has come down like heaven, and maybe even that this could be. It could be entirely flipped on its head, and it isn't the wakening. Maybe it is the drift into sleep, or maybe we're going to get that on the outro here. There's 100% of voice there, right? Listen, if you put headphones in right now and just concentrate all of your attention to the left-hand side of your brain and force all of the attention into your left ear, you can't tell me that there isn't some action going on here in the background. I can't turn this up any louder. There's a voice. And then we get that digital. There's someone talking right back here. Back there. And then we fade. Musically we come all compressed. And we disappear into sleep again. I say that potentially into sleep again, because again, this could all be bollocks. There's definitely what I think sounds like a woman's voice addressing a crowd somewhere in the back here. I can't unhear it, and I shan't gatekeep it from you either. There's something there. The significance of it, I don't know. I can't offer you that. But there is some, because nothing here is not done by design. Alrighty, let's take a dive into these lyrics, shall we? Okay, folks, so for the first take on the lyrics here, I'm going to rather dive into the lore aspect. Again, going back to how I view Sleep Token as a piece of musical theatre. However, I'm going to, after I've done the lore interpretation, give you my personal interpretation, which is actually not lore-driven. But we'll get to that in a moment. So if you've never watched one of my videos before, sometimes I like to break them down into monologues to kind of unpick a little bit away from the syntax or the melody construction to try and just look at the words as they exist on their own. So, verse 1, when you live by daylight with angels at your side, in order now, bestowed by the light of the sunrise. So, when you live by daylight with angels at your side, in order now, bestowed by the light of the sunrise. So, Vessel has rather alluded to, or the man behind the mask has rather alluded to in the lyrics up to this point, that it is the night where he becomes one with sleep, where that is where they live together. So when you live, and that's something very important here, when you This is being addressed to, if you like, even just to us as an audience. When you live by daylight with angels at your side, in order now, bestowed by the light of the sunrise. So in order, the order that is bestowed on us is linked directly back to the circadian rhythm. The order is the cycle. It is the 12-hour or the 24-hour cycle indeed for all of this. So when you live by daylight with angels at your side, I'm going to dive a little bit more into the angels line in my my interpretation, but I'm trying to keep this strictly to the vessel and sleep lore for the time being. And you remember everything only till the sun recedes once again. Now, in many ways, this is in direct opposition to many of the other lore-based tracks, or at least interpretations of the lore-based tracks that I've had so far. Because this is, and you remember everything only until the sun recedes once again. So you remember everything during the day, and then that seems different to a lot of what Vessel, the protagonist in this piece, he seems to crave the night, and that's why I am not 100% convinced that this is entirely lore driven. And then we get repetition. Now let's just count these off. And the night comes down like heaven. The night comes down like heaven. So how many times do we get there? So we get this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times the first time round. And then let's just jump ahead past the adverts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we hear that line 16 times in total over the course of the song. Now let's get to the bridge. The whites of your eyes turn black in the low light. Again, if you'd like to, jump ahead to Euclid and listen to that right now, I would say spoilers. It's been out for fucking years. But yes, obviously there is repetition of this in Euclid. But the whites of your eyes turn black in the low light. Could that be? Does UV light affect that as well? Ultraviolet light? In turning divine, we tangle endlessly. Now, in turning divine is or rather just turning divine, can be interpreted in a bunch of different ways. I'm going to take a Jungian perspective on this, because turning divine from a Jungian perspective is tangling endlessly, for want of a better term, your ego with your shadow. It is we now are going to turn divine by ascending. And an ascension isn't becoming godly. It isn't taking one's own life. It isn't a mortal sin. It isn't there isn't like many people have taken those illusions in the past to turning divine, but I don't think that's what this is. I think the act of turning divine, the act of becoming godly, is finding one's essential self. It is the act of individuation. It is the becoming of a whole self. Like lovers entwined, and this is I mention this a lot in Sleep Token lyrics. I know. Vessel says he knows a lot. Well, I know why I woke up here on the shoreline. There seems to be a big sense of understanding oneself, of being aware of the processes, the processes that are going on all around him in this interaction. And indeed, from the man behind the mask who wrote these songs, it may be that he is aware that I know that I'll never have you. I know that the relationship that I want, the relationship that I want us to have. There's so many times that there is acceptance of that in these lyrics across 4 albums that I know. I know you're never going to be mine. So give me the bits that you can. I mean, many times, even songs like Give, it's give me everything you can. Dump it all on me. Give me all the trauma. Or maybe not. Give me all the love as well. Maybe it is that idea that the shadow, and I'm going to bring this up now before we get into the rest of the album. I do believe that sleep gets a bit of a bad rap. I think that actually they are a conduit to Vessel finding his essential self. I think that you have to... Negredo, you have to break down the base material. You have to break it down. You have to dive into the shadow. You have to go into the cold waters. The rivers will never run warm if you don't dive into the cold water and somehow do the work in the dark that will make them warm. So, in that respect, that's why I think that this. Like lovers entwined, I know for the last time, you will not be mine. You will not. It's not, you won't. You will not be mine. So, statement, give me the night. So, if I can't maybe it's give me back the night. Maybe if that's where, in the law perspective, their relationship, their entanglement, their physical relationship, sex, like just fucking. Maybe that's from a more analytical perspective. The man behind the mask. We've talked about Vessel being the booty call. That potentially he's oh yeah, great in the night, but then in the daytime you have to deal with the consequences of that, because I'm going to go off and live my life, and I'm going to be able to leave you, but you're not going to be able to leave that connection that you have with me. That maybe sleep is exalted because of that reason, because they don't have the same. It doesn't feel for one like it does for the other. Well, I was just a body in your passenger seat. I'm just a dick for hire. So is there then, at the beginning of this bridge, also then a predatory aspect? The whites of your eyes turn black in the low light, as in the whites of your eyes, the bits that were white, that were clear, that were light, that were positive, because we associate light with positivity and the dark with negativity. So the whites of your eyes, the bits that I could see, the bits that made you human, they turn black once we turn the lights down. You become predatory. You become like a shark. We can go back to Jaws for those examples where, and we're going to get to it very, very soon in the offering, because is it an offering of a soul? Is it an offering of emotions, or is it a physical offering? And so when the whites of your eyes turn black in the low light, oh shit, I'm prey and you're the predator. But also, a lot of people know that my interpretation of battle in Sleep Token lyrics often can mean, well, fucking. And so this idea of interning divine, we tangle endlessly. Whenever I think of branches, but in terms of humans, I think of like legs wrapping together, of just not being able to get close enough to that, like wanting to consume them, to go back to Vor or whatever, that you are so infatuated, you are so in love with them that to tangle endlessly. It's the Plato's Symposium, the act of putting yourself back together, the origin of love. In sex, we are putting ourselves back together with that person, that we are only a half. Again, I urge you to go and watch The Origin of Love. Go and watch Hedwig and the Angry Inch. There are big philosophical vibes to how we will tangle endlessly when we're entwined. But also there's Romeo and Juliet. There's unrequited love that ends tragically as well. So is that something to maybe consider here? That the turning divine is the act of both of them going off along that river together, tangling endlessly. That if we are combined together in the act of ending our our mortal life and shuffling off this mortal coil, perhaps therein we do tangle endlessly. So there's a whole fucking load to unpack here. But you will not be mine, so give me the night. You will not be mine. The self-awareness, that's what it is. The self-awareness that actually you're never. I'm only ever going to be, the booty call. And if I am, then give me the night. Maybe it's give me back the night. Maybe it's like, don't torture me in my dreams. I'm talking about this from a more like romantic songwriting perspective as well. Because if we were to go back to the law, then surely that's what Vessel wants. He wants to tangle endlessly. He wants to be in the night. And this rather leads me into, I think this is an ode. In listening back to this song on numerous occasions, I have, in my mind's eye, imagined a music video. I know a lot of people do this. When you listen to a song, you can kind of imagine like the dramatic playouts, the artistic interpretation that a director would give to a song in order to create a music video. But the lyrical content, the music, the links, all of the stuff that we went through at the beginning of this video, I believe that this is an ode to somebody who is suffering from sundowning syndrome, somebody who either has a dementia or Alzheimer's. And I'm going to try and explain that now. I'm not going to get upset about it, or I might. When I listened to this for the first time, and the first two lines were, "When you live by daylight with angels by your side," all I could think of was healthcare workers and family who have given up, maybe not their entire lives, but have given up parts of them in order to care for others. Now, one of my biggest fears is getting dementia. So, when we go back to the original idea of circadian rhythm, of sundowning, of the effect that perhaps for the opening song of this album, which has the title Sundowning, and obviously in some way is linked to that, this feels like an ode to a family member. And for the purposes of trying to illustrate what my interpretation with dramatic intent, I'm going to try and explain what I imagine the music video being. So I believe that there is a narrator, a protagonist, somebody who is outside of this, and they are watching an older couple. And let's just, for art's sake, for interpretation's sake, say that it is an older lady who doesn't have dementia and her partner who does. Now, in that respect, if you are suffering from sundown syndrome, when you live by daylight with angels at your side, I believe that is a very on the nose. You are okay in the daylight, and you have angels at your side. You have the protagonist, the narrator, but it's addressed you. It's like it's almost addressed at us, giving it an added weight of personalization, of internalization. But I do believe that this is when you live by daylight, you who are suffering from this, with angels at your side, not by your side as well. That's something else that I've mentioned before in previous Sleep Token videos. The use of at and by, two very different things when they're at your side or by your side, as it may be. In order now, bestowed by, given by, bestowed is also as well a very grandiose way. The order, everything that you have is given by the light of the sunrise, the circadian rhythm, the fact that we have order because when the sun comes up, that person who potentially is suffering from sundowning syndrome, that they feel correct, that when the light comes up, oh, everything's fine. And this is so prevalent with people who suffer from sundowning as well. During the day, they're a different person. When the light comes down, when the shadows start to get longer, it changes the way they act with people. As I've mentioned already, like even down to acts of violence against people they love. And you remember everything only till the sun recedes once again. I can also imagine this as a torch song. If we were to create a piece of theatre from this, I would imagine that it is the voice of the elderly woman, the woman who is seeing her partner. And again, I'm just using characters here to portray my interpretation. But the idea that she is singing this to him, saying, when you live by daylight with angels at your side, in order now bestowed by the light of the sunrise. And then there's two voices come in. And you remember everything, only till the sun recedes once again. Not the dark encompasses you, the sun recedes. You remember who we were, our relationship, you remember our golden years, that you remember everything, and then it gets dark and it all disappears. The idea that the night comes down like heaven, that although the confusion and the upset presents itself to us, that internally, maybe that's the release that they're waiting for. Maybe they want to be taken to heaven. Maybe it is the idea that heaven represents the end of this. The night comes down like heaven, when eventually you pass out, when eventually you are no longer awake, that maybe that's the release, that in sleep, when you get there, that's the only place that you can feel true comfort, true release. And again here in the bridge, the whites of your eyes turn black in the low light. So rather than taking it from a lore perspective, what if it was from somebody who loves someone? Again, we're going to take it from the artistic, the interpretation I've given. Maybe it's the partner telling them the whites of your eyes turn black in the low light as the sunlight recedes, as the dark takes over, that you're no longer yourself. The whites of your eyes turn black. You're not you anymore. But I know, for the last time. Now, that is very poignant, because it's not, I know, for the last time. You will not be mine. Through dementia, or Alzheimer's, or indeed sundowning syndrome, that you will not be mine because I can't beat this. That we, the angels, the family, the healthcare workers, the people who love you, that we, once the night comes over, you will not be mine. So it gives a really different interpretation to give me the night. Because it's almost like, if you can give me the night, then we get one last time together. And maybe that's why there is that repetition of the night comes down like heaven. Maybe it's because that is all that person can cling on to. That, like staring out of the window, like a mantra, that while everybody else is talking to you, while all the things are happening, just the idea that there is this character, this person who is now powerless, there is a sense of detachment. And so therein, the night comes down like heaven. Maybe not. This could all be bollocks. That's the thing. But anyway, that's rather the way that this is the journey that this song has taken me on. Fuck me, we've been talking about this for ages. I hope, again, thank you everyone for watching these. Anyway, enough. It's just fucking music. We'll enjoy it. It's just fucking music. It's not. That's the point. It's not just fucking music. This is truly transcendent stuff that is keeping us all interested in this. Thank you for watching the videos. I'm sorry this has been... I'm apologizing for it being long. I know some of you like the longer ones.
That's what she said. Don't you dare.
If you want to comment your own thoughts about this, that'd be lovely. Thank you for... And if you want to like and subscribe and all that shit, yeah. Anyway, look on screen now, all of my support is on Ko-fi. These are the people who... 100% keep me afloat. They allow me to spend days watching videos about fucking all sorts, reading books about alchemy, trying to get... And don't get me wrong, I could have gone way deeper into this than I did. But, we don't want to be here for 4 hours at a time. And so thank you to everybody who's a member on Ko-fi. You can become a member there. What's that? Fly. You can become a member there. You get access to the members only Discord. It's a community-led Discord, which is just bursting at the seams with people talking about Sleep Token art, bands, music. Obviously, we've taken deep dives into the Warning and Bad Omens, and there's all sorts on there if you want to discuss art and so you can become a member on Ko-fi and find that. I will be back for more Sleep Token next week. First time I listened to the song, I was like, that's a cute little opener to an album. And now, as with Sleep Token, the more you put into it, fuck me, the more you get out of it, guys. It's quite a this is a band who has completely taken over my excitement for music again. It's made me love music again. Like I said before, it's made me smarter. It's made me dive into stuff that I would have never imagined before. But yes, thank you for watching, and I shall see you one track into sundowning. 45 to go, folks. But yeah, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting me. All that stuff. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you for the next one.